Today on Sports Central, we go over our next team projection of this offseason, and it's going to be over the Utah Utes, a team that went 3-2 overall in the 2020 season. Not a bad season for Utah. Of course, this team only played 5 games, which is only a fraction of a normal season. But how will Utah be in 2021 is what we're going over here today. We're going to go over a few players that Utah will be losing, who they'll be returning, and also looking at their schedule for the first time this offseason, starting out with of course, your schedule of last season. You lost your first 2, but you won your last 3 as far as it goes for last season. You lost to USC 17-33, also to the Washington Huskies on the road 21-24. Beat Oregon State 30-24, also beat Colorado and Washington State. So you did win your last 3 games, which is pretty impressive for Utah overall. Outstanding season for this team. If you look at the last 3 games, I mean, this team played pretty well in the last 3 weeks, but once again, your record was 3-2 last season, which obviously only playing 5 games is not much of a season, which, I mean, Utah really had a lot of talent last season. If this team could have had a full 12-game schedule, I mean, Utah could have gone up to 9 wins or so, which, I mean, that's definitely possible going into next season as well, just looking at your returning production for next year. Of course, you got Jake Bentley. He's transferring away. He was our starting quarterback last season, but he will not be with Utah next season. Instead, you get Charlie Brewer, which, of course, there may be there's a lot of mixed opinions about Charlie Brewer, actually. I'm kind of on the side where I think Charlie Brewer is a very underrated quarterback. I mean, for Baylor last season, Baylor only went 2-7 last year. They only got 2 wins. But if you look at Charlie Brewer, he was the main highlight of Baylor over the past couple of seasons. Like, he led this team when they had that outstanding 2019 season, and when Baylor was definitely a contender a couple of seasons ago. And even though, I mean, Baylor did not have as good of a season in 2020, I mean, Charlie Brewer was a huge highlight of that team, and I think he's got a ton of potential as he comes in to Utah as a transfer. So it's going to be fun to watch with Charlie Brewer and Utah. I definitely think this will be a good match for him, and it's going to be fun to watch what he's able to do. Of course, he's got a lot of experience in college football. I mean, if you look at his stats over the course of his 4 years with Baylor, I mean, in 2017, he did not play fully. He was primarily the secondary quarterback for the team, but in 2018 and 2019, put up some outstanding stats. I mean, in 2018, he had over 3,000 yards, 19 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and 2019 is really where he had his outstanding season with over 3,100 yards, 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and a 65% completion rate. That was a great season out of him, definitely the best season up to this point. 2020, he put up just right around 2,000 yards, which, of course, Baylor did not play a full schedule last year, so that's why the stats are a bit lower. 14 touchdowns as well, so still had a good 2020 season, even though in 2019, I mean, he was outstanding in 2019, and really, I mean, he's still got a ton of potential for Utah, I believe. I mean, and really, I mean, even if you look at your skill players positions, everything looks pretty good all around. So it's going to be fun to watch with Charlie Brewer in Utah. He's definitely a player to watch out for, in my opinion, if you're looking at Utah and really players around the nation in general. He's definitely on my list to watch out for. Jake Bentley, though, looking at him last season, he put up just over 800 yards, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and a 62% completion rate with the Utes. So, of course, he is transferring away, so it really doesn't matter anymore. But Charlie Brewer, once again, I definitely believe that he can put up much better stats than Jake Bentley was ever able to with Utah. Looking at the running back situation for this team, of course, Ty Jordan, a tragic situation with him. I mean, my biggest condolences to everyone in the Utah fan base. I mean, Ty Jordan was an outstanding running back in his season with Utah last year. I mean, he definitely, I believe, it was outstanding the amount of talent that he put on the board last season for Utah. He put up over 700 yards, 6 touchdowns, and of course for Ty Jordan, once again, I mean, it's just so tragic that we weren't able to see him in a full career with Utah. So once again, my biggest condolences to Utah fans and his family in general. Otherwise, for the running back situation, you really don't have another running back right now in there. So it's going to be kind of a wild card situation in the running back core for next season. But as for the wide receiver position, Britton Covey is coming back. He put up just over 260 yards, 3 touchdowns. Brian Thompson, he was your second wide receiver. He's transferring away. He will not be with this team next season. You do return your top tight end there. He was your third in receiving yards last season as well. You lose 1 on the offensive line, 1 defensive lineman, 1 in the secondary. So really the defensive side looks pretty good for Utah overall. So yeah, once again for Utah, this team's got some pretty good returning production on both sides of the ball. Chances of improvement in 2021, I'd say, is pretty good for this team, especially if Charlie Brewer is able to play at the level that we know he can. I mean, with Baylor, once again, he was pretty underrated, I will say. I mean, in 2019, he definitely played his best season, and even though he was pretty covered up by that 2-7 record by Baylor last year, it should be interesting to see how far he's able to lead this team. Potential Pac-12 dark horse, I definitely think, is possible for Utah. I mean, this team in 2019 was definitely a good team. But really for Utah, I definitely think this team's got a lot of potential going to next season, and it's going to be fun to watch for sure. But looking at your schedule for next season, you got Weber State on September 2nd to start off your season. You got BYU and San Diego State. Then after that, both of those games are on the road. Washington State comes after that. That is going to be a home matchup. Probably one of your easier non-conference games at the start of the season. Really, in your first 4 games, I could see a 4-0 record out of those first 4 weeks for Utah. BYU on the road, I mean, I think BYU is not going to be near as good next year as they were in 2020. USC, then you got them on the road. Should be an interesting matchup there. Then you got Arizona State, Oregon State to follow. UCLA, Stanford, Arizona, and Oregon round out the later parts of the season. Then you got Colorado to finish out your regular season. So that being said, looking at the first half of the season, Weber State, that's going to be a win. BYU, San Diego State, both. I could see being closer matchups, but I'm probably favoring Utah in both of those matchups right now. Washington State's going to be a win as well. So you got, once again, those first 4 games are pretty winnable. I'd probably say Utah's got a more than a good chance of starting out the season with 3 or 4 wins. USC is going to be a close one. Arizona State's also going to be a close one. Both of those teams should be pretty good next season. Then you got, of course, in your second half of the season, Oregon State. I'd probably favor Utah right now in that one, but I'm not going to say a whole lot much else about that matchup yet. UCLA and then Stanford, both of those games are definitely winnable as well. Like, once again, a lot of these games are very winnable for Utah. Just about every game. It's just a matter of whether or not they can win the close matchups. Arizona's going to be a win. Then you got Oregon, of course. That should be an interesting team there next season with the Oregon Ducks. They got Tyler Shuck, who's transferring away. So it'll be interesting to see how many games that they can win. But that's definitely a winnable matchup as well for Utah going up against Oregon. Colorado could be a tougher one as well, so I'm going to keep that as a yellow matchup. But the ceiling for next season is actually going to be pretty high for Utah. 10-2 is going to be your ceiling for next season. I definitely think 10-2 is unlikely, but that's kind of the top of where Utah could be next season. Your projection will be 8-4, so I'm expecting you to get up to 8 wins. 9 wins is also possible. 8-9 is definitely in the range, I think, for Utah next year, and 6-6 will be your floor. So I've got you going to a bowl game no matter what next season. I just think this team has got plenty of potential going into next year, and that's a big part of Utah next year is just the potential that we see on this team in general. But that being said, that wraps up my projections on Utah. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this team. If you enjoyed this video, slap a like on it, subscribe as well, as it really helps out the channel, and I really appreciate that. But once again, stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you guys later.